The Thai food was still warm in my arms when my whole world cracked down the middle. I'd left the office early that drizzly Friday, a minor miracle considering the mountain of IT tickets piling up on my desk. But it was family game night, and I'd promised the twins we'd finally crack open that new board game they'd been eyeing. 42 years on this planet had taught me that you don't break promises to your kids. Not ever. The garage door creaked as I slipped inside, balancing the takeout bags while fumbling for my phone to text Lisa. The house was too quiet. Lily and Max should have been at the kitchen table, pencils scratching against homework, maybe arguing about whose turn it was to pick the movie. Instead, silence pressed against the walls like something alive. Then I heard her voice. "Missed you too. God, I've missed you." My wife's whisper drifted from the kitchen, soft and intimate in a way I hadn't heard directed at me in months, maybe years. I set the bags down on the workbench without thinking, my body moving on autopilot while my brain struggled to catch up. "Kids are asleep. Come over now, please." I pressed myself against the garage wall, heart hammering so loud I was sure she'd hear it. Through the cracked door, I could see her. Lisa, my Lisa, the woman I'd spent 15 years building a life with, pacing the kitchen in that blue dress. The one I'd bought her for our anniversary last spring. She'd said it was too fancy, that we never went anywhere nice enough for it. But there she was, wearing it at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, phone pressed to her ear, glancing up the stairs where our children slept. 20 minutes later, headlights swept across the driveway. A black SUV I'd never seen before pulled in behind my car. The engine cut. A man stepped out. Tall, dark hair, the kind of confident stride that said he owned every room he walked into. I watched from the shadows as he moved toward the side door, and Lisa met him there, pulling him inside with an urgency that made my stomach heave. I don't remember walking through the house. I don't remember climbing the stairs. All I know is that one moment I was frozen in the garage, and the next I was standing outside the guest room door, my phone's flashlight blazing in my hand. I kicked it open. They were on the bed. Her dress was bunched around her waist. His shirt was on the floor. And the look on Lisa's face when that light hit them? I'll carry that image to my grave. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Pure animal fear of getting caught. The guy, this slick piece of work who'd been touching my wife, scrambled backwards so fast he fell off the bed, grabbing for his pants while tripping over his own shoes. He bolted for the back door, half-dressed, not even looking back. "Ray, wait, it's not—" "How long, Lisa?" My voice came out like something broken, like glass grinding against glass. She was clutching the sheets to her chest, mascara already running, and I couldn't even look at her. Couldn't process that this woman in front of me was the same one who'd stood across from me at the altar, promising forever. "Ray, please, let me explain." "How long?" The words tore out of me, and somewhere down the hall I heard one of the twins stir. 3 months, she whispered. "It was just, I was stressed, and you're always at work, and—" "I'm always at work?" I laughed, and it sounded wrong. Hollow. "I'm the one who debugs your laptop at midnight. I'm the one who packs the kids' lunches with those stupid little notes they love. I'm the one coaching Max's soccer team while you're out networking." My fist hit the wall before I could stop it. Drywall cracked. Knuckles split. Blood smeared against the paint, and I didn't feel a thing. "Get out! Ray? Get out of my house right now before I say something I can't take back." She grabbed a coat from the closet. Didn't even pack a bag. Just ran out the front door to her sister's place, tires squealing as she pulled out of the driveway. And then it was just me, standing in the wreckage of my marriage, blood dripping onto the carpet. "Daddy?" I spun around. Lily was standing in the hallway, her Disney princess nightgown rumpled, her sharp 11-year-old eyes taking in everything. The broken wall, my bleeding hand, the empty bed behind me. "Did you and Mommy have a fight?" I knelt down, pulling her into a hug even though I was shaking. Rough night, champ, that's all. Let's get you and your brother back to bed, okay? Story time? Max appeared beside her, rubbing his eyes. Where'd Mommy go? She went to Aunt Karen's for a little while. Just grown-up stuff. I forced my voice steady, channeled every ounce of dad energy I had left. Come on, you guys want to hear about the Lego astronauts tonight? I tucked them in together in Lily's room, told them a rambling story about space explorers and their trusty robot dog. Max was out within 5 minutes, but Lily, my too smart, too observant daughter, grabbed my sleeve before I could leave. Daddy, we saw Mommy with that man before. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? At the park, last month. She told us it was a secret game. Lily's voice was small, scared. She said we couldn't tell you or she'd be really, really sad. And we didn't want Mommy to be sad. Max stirred beside her, nodding with his eyes half closed. Secret game. Promise not to tell. I stood there in the glow of their nightlight, looking at my children, my babies, and realized the betrayal went deeper than I'd ever imagined. Lisa hadn't just cheated on me. She'd turned our kids into unwitting accomplices, made them lie for her, weaponized their love. That was the moment something shifted inside me. The grief and shock hardened into something colder, something with edges. I didn't sleep that night, sat at the kitchen table until dawn, nursing coffee that went cold 3 times over, staring at the wall I'd punched. By the time pale light started creeping through the windows, I'd made a decision. This wasn't going to be one of those situations where the cheating spouse cries a little, promises to change, and everyone pretends it never happened. Not with my kids involved. Not like this. Lisa showed up around 9, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Bags under her eyes, hair barely brushed, still wearing the same jeans she'd grabbed in her rush to leave. She hovered in the doorway like she wasn't sure she was allowed inside anymore. We need to talk, she said. Yeah, we do. I nodded toward the living room. Kids too. Her face went pale. Ray, no. They're too young to. They already know, Lisa. They've known for weeks. You made sure of that. The twins came down when I called them, still in pajamas, clutching their stuffed animals. We all sat on the couch, me on one end, the kids in the middle, Lisa perched on the edge like she was ready to bolt. Okay, guys, family meeting. I kept my voice calm, even though my insides were churning. Something happened last night, and we need to talk about it. Mommy made a big mistake with a friend from her work. It hurt Daddy a lot, and things are going to be different for a while. Lisa was crying already, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, babies. Mommy loves you so much. We can fix this. We can be a family again. Like the secret game. Lily's voice cut through the room. She was looking right at her mother, and there was no forgiveness in those young eyes. Just confusion and hurt, and the beginnings of something that might have been anger. When you made us lie about the park? Was that a mistake too? Lisa's mouth opened and closed. Sweetheart, that was just... You said if we told Daddy you'd be really sad, Max said quietly. You said we had to keep it secret or our family would break. I watched my wife's face crumble. She had no defense, no spin. Her own children had just laid out exactly what she'd done, in the plain, unvarnished language of kids who didn't know how to sugarcoat anything. You made them cover for you? My voice came out steadier than I felt. You dragged our 11-year-olds into your mess? I didn't think, I never meant, you never meant to get caught. That's different from not meaning to do it. The room fell silent except for Max's quiet sniffling. I pulled both kids closer to me, one under each arm, and felt Lisa watching from across the couch. Isolated. Outside the circle of a family she'd fractured. We're going to start therapy on Monday, I said finally. All of us. We're going to work through this the right way, but Lisa, I looked at her directly, and whatever she saw in my face made her flinch. Trust is done. You understand that? Whatever happens next, that part of us is gone. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Can I stay? For the kids? Every instinct screamed no. But the twins were looking up at me, and I couldn't make a decision that big with their scared eyes watching. For now, guest room. We'll figure out the rest later. That night, after Lisa had retreated upstairs and the kids were finally in bed, I sat down at my computer. We had a shared family cloud drive. Had it for years, mostly for photos and the kids' school projects. Lisa used it too for work stuff sometimes. I started poking around. It didn't take long to find the hidden folder. She'd tried to delete it, but cloud services are funny that way. Things leave traces. And there, buried in the recovery files, were months of text messages she'd backed up before wiping her phone. The kids covered for us at the park. Adorable, right? They're naturals. Can't wait until Tuesday. Wear that thing I like. M says his wife suspects nothing. We're so good at this. M. Marcus. I scrolled through the messages, bile rising in my throat until I found his full name. Marcus Ellis. School counselor at Lisa's high school. The guy who helped troubled students navigate their problems. Real stand-up citizen, that one. The messages went back 3 months. 3 months of lies, of cover stories, of my wife coordinating with this guy about when and where to meet. And threaded through all of it, casual references to my kids. How Lily had played along so well. How Max was too sweet to question anything. I screenshot everything. Saved it to a separate drive. And then I sat in the dark, phone in hand, and did something I hadn't done since our dad died 5 years ago. I called my brother. Hello? Jake's voice was groggy. It was almost midnight in Tacoma. Ray? Everything okay? No. The word came out cracked. Lisa's been cheating on me for months. And Jake, she made the kids lie for her, made them part of the whole thing. Silence on the other end. Then a long exhale. Where are you right now? Kitchen. She's upstairs. Kids are in bed. Okay, first thing, don't do anything stupid. You hearing me? Whatever you're feeling right now, you've got to stay smart for those kids. I know. Second thing, get a lawyer, Monday morning, best one you can find. Already planning on it. And third, his voice softened. I'm sorry, man. I'm really, really sorry. There's no playbook for this kind of thing. Yeah. I stared at the wall, at the dent from my fist that I still hadn't fixed. There really isn't. The next week passed in a blur of logistics and barely contained rage. I found a family therapist with an opening Monday afternoon, Dr. Sarah Bowman, a calm-eyed woman with degrees covering one whole wall of her office. I sat in the waiting room with Lisa and the twins, none of us talking, feeling like a fraud in my own skin. Thank you all for coming in, Dr. Bowman said, once we were settled in her bright, toy-filled therapy room. I know this is a difficult time. Today, I'd just like to get a sense of where everyone is. No pressure to share more than you're comfortable with. Lisa jumped in immediately. It was a mistake, a lapse in judgment. I was stressed, and I made a terrible choice, but I love my family and I want to make this work. Dr. Bowman nodded, making notes. Then she turned to the twins. How about you two? How are you feeling about everything? Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a piece of paper, a drawing she must have done that morning. It showed a house with 4 stick figures inside. Happy family stuff. But off to the side, half hidden behind a tree, was a 5th figure. A man with dark hair, watching. That's the secret man, Lily said quietly. Mommy's friend who came to the park. Lisa made a choked sound. Dr. Bowman's expression didn't change, but I saw her pen pause over her notepad. And how did it feel, keeping that secret? Bad, Max said. He was gripping his stuffed dinosaur so hard the stitching looked ready to pop. Felt like lying. We're not supposed to lie. You're absolutely right, Dr. Bowman said gently. Lies can feel very heavy, even when someone asks us to carry them. I looked at Lisa across the room. She was staring at her hands, tears sliding down her cheeks, and for just a second I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered those text messages. Adorable, right? They're naturals. After the session, Lisa tried to touch my arm. I stepped away. Ray, please. We can get through this. Marriages survive affairs all the time. Marriages survive affairs, I repeated. But you didn't just have an affair, Lisa. You made our children complicit. You took their innocence and used it as camouflage. I was scared. No, you were careful. That's different. I walked out to the parking lot, got in my car, and drove to the address I'd found that morning. Carla Voss, Private Investigations. Family-focused. Discreet. Recommended by a guy at work whose marriage had imploded similarly a few years back. Her office was above a coffee shop in a strip mall. Nothing fancy, but clean. Carla herself was a compact woman in her late 50s with silver-streaked hair and the kind of handshake that meant business. Tell me what you need, she said. So I did. All of it. The affair, the timeline, the kids, the text messages. She listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes in a leather-bound journal. I need documentation, I said finally. Enough to protect my children in a custody hearing. I don't want revenge. I want security. Carla nodded. I can work with that. Fair warning. This kind of investigation isn't cheap, and it isn't fast. But if what you're saying is accurate, there'll be a trail. There always is. How much are we talking? Retainers $2,000. We'll see where we are after that. I wrote the check without hesitating. Carla's first report came back 10 days later, and it was worse than I'd imagined. We met at a diner on the edge of town, neutral ground, away from prying eyes. She slid a manila folder across the table while I nursed a cup of coffee I didn't taste. Your wife has been meeting Marcus Ellis regularly for approximately 14 weeks, she said, flipping open the folder. Mostly during what she's told you were networking lunches or admin team meetings. I've confirmed at least 11 separate occasions. I looked at the photographs. Lisa and Marcus at a restaurant downtown. Lisa and Marcus getting into his SUV. Lisa and Marcus walking into the Pines Motor Lodge off Highway 2, Room 106, at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The motel visit started about 6 weeks ago, Carla continued. They've been there at least 4 times that I can confirm. Always pays cash. He does anyway. She reimburses him later. How do you know that? Because she's been putting the payments on your joint credit card, listed as miscellaneous expenses, about $2,000 total over the past 3 months. I sat back, the diner spinning slightly around me. She'd used our money, our shared account, to pay for hotel rooms where she could sleep with another man. There's more, Carla said. Marcus Ellis has a pattern. I talked to some people at the school, discreetly, nothing that would blow back on you. He's been involved with at least 2 other women from the district over the past 5 years. One of them filed a complaint that went nowhere. The other transferred to a different school. My jaw clenched. So he's a predator in a counselor's suit. That's one way to put it. The school district has a see no evil approach to these things. As long as test scores stay up and parents don't sue, nobody asks hard questions about what staff members do during lunch breaks. And his wife? Still married, 2 kids, elementary age. From what I can tell, she either doesn't know or doesn't want to. I flagged down the waitress for more coffee, needing something to do with my hands. What kind of man does this? Goes after married women, uses kids as cover, bounces from affair to affair while his own family waits at home? Carla gave me a look that said she'd seen this movie 100 times before. You'd be amazed what people convince themselves is acceptable. In his mind, he probably thinks he's doing these women a favor, giving them excitement, making them feel desired, while destroying everything around them. That's the part they leave out of the fantasy. The soccer game incident happened in week 10. Max's team had a Saturday morning match. Nothing special, just a regular league game against the team from across town. I showed up early like always, set up the water cooler, helped the kids warm up. Regular dad stuff. Then I saw the black SUV pull into the parking lot. My stomach dropped. I knew that car. I'd watched it pull into my driveway the night everything fell apart. And there he was. Marcus, climbing out of the driver's seat, helping Lisa with her folding chair like some kind of gentleman. She'd brought him to our son's soccer game. Seated him next to her on the sideline like it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt my vision narrow, heartbeat accelerating. The other parents were starting to notice. Whispered conversations, sidelong glances. Small town, word travels. Mr. Harlan, one of my assistant coaches, touched my arm. You okay? Fine. The word came out clipped. Give me a minute. I walked across the field before I could talk myself out of it. Lisa saw me coming and her face went pale. But Marcus just smiled. That confident, easy smile of a man who thought he was untouchable. Ray! Lisa scrambled to her feet. I didn't think you'd... This is my son's game, Lisa. Of course I'm here. I turned to Marcus, and whatever he saw in my eyes made that smile falter. And you? You've got some nerve showing up here. I was just supporting Lisa. You were just supporting Lisa. I kept my voice low, controlled, aware of dozens of eyes on us. At my child's soccer game. After everything you've done to my family. Marcus spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. Look, man, I get that you're upset, but what happens between consenting adults? Stay away from my kids. They're Lisa's kids, too. Stay away from my kids. I stepped closer, and I saw him flinch back despite himself. I don't care where you go or what you do, but if I see you at another game, another school event, anywhere near my children, I will make it my personal mission to ensure every school district in this state knows exactly what kind of counselor you really are. His face went hard. Is that a threat? It's a promise, from one father to another. I smiled without warmth. How old are your kids again, Marcus? 8 and 10? I wonder how they'd feel knowing what their daddy does on his lunch breaks. Something flickered behind his eyes. Fear, maybe, or just the calculation of a predator recognizing he'd met someone who wouldn't back down. Lisa. He stood up, folding his chair. I think I should go. Marcus, wait. She grabbed his arm, but he shook her off. Call me later. He walked back to his SUV without looking at me. I watched him drive away, then turned back to Lisa. You brought him here, I said quietly. To Max's game. Our son. I didn't think You didn't think. That's been the problem all along. I walked back to my spot on the sideline, and for the rest of the game, I focused on coaching. On my son's smile when he made a good pass. On the things that actually mattered. Lisa left at halftime. I didn't see Marcus at any of the kids' events again. I flagged down the waitress for more coffee, needing something to do with my hands. What kind of man does this? Goes after married women, uses kids as cover, bounces from affair to affair while his own family waits at home? Carla gave me a look that said she'd seen this movie 100 times before. You'd be amazed what people convince themselves is acceptable. In his mind, he probably thinks he's doing these women a favor, giving them excitement, making them feel desired, while destroying everything around them. That's the part they leave out of the fantasy. I thought about those kids, about Max and Lily, about how many families this guy had wormed his way into without consequence. What about the thing with my children? The park incident? Carla nodded slowly. That's trickier to document. I can confirm they were at Riverside Park on March 8th. There's a photo Lisa posted to her personal Facebook, since deleted, but I recovered it from a cached version. She's with the kids, and in the background, you can see a man matching Marcus's description sitting at a nearby bench. She pulled out another photo. My twins, smiling at the camera, and behind them, barely visible, that familiar dark-haired figure. He wasn't in the shot by accident, Carla said. That's the angle you take when you're trying to keep someone out of frame, but they're standing too close. I thought about Lily's drawing, the secret man behind the tree. Here's what I need you to understand, Ray. Everything I've gathered so far is legal and admissible. One-party consent state for recordings. You can document your own conversations. The financial records are marital property. The photographs were taken in public places. If this goes to court, you'll have a solid foundation. When it goes to court, I corrected. Not if. Carla studied me for a long moment. Fair enough. But there's something else you should know. Marcus's wife reached out to me this morning. I blinked. What? Anonymously, through my website's contact form. Said she'd heard I was looking into her husband. Wanted to know if I was working for the new one. Carla paused. I didn't confirm anything, but she said something interesting. Said her kids have been keeping secrets too. Same playbook. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. She wants to talk. Whenever you're ready. Her name was Rachel, and we met at a park 2 towns over, far from anyone who might recognize either of us. She was a thin woman in her mid-30s, with the kind of exhausted eyes that spoke to years of looking the other way. I got there first, found a bench overlooking an empty playground, swings creaking in the wind like something from a horror movie. Perfect setting for this kind of conversation. Rachel appeared a few minutes later, scanning the area before approaching. We didn't shake hands, didn't introduce ourselves. Just 2 strangers bound together by the same wrecking ball. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding onto the bench beside me. We both stared straight ahead, watching some kids play on a distant jungle gym. I didn't know who else to talk to, I admitted. Carla said you might understand. Rachel laughed bitterly. Understand? I've been understanding for 6 years. Every time I found a receipt that didn't make sense, every time he came home smelling like someone else's perfume, every time he had late meetings that lasted until midnight, I understood. Why did you stay? Same reason anyone stays. The kids. The mortgage. The fact that my whole life was built around this one choice I made when I was 23 years old, and admitting it was wrong felt like admitting I'd wasted everything. She finally looked at me, and I saw something hollow behind her eyes. You know what the worst part is? I actually loved him. For years. Even when I knew something was wrong, I loved him. How messed up is that? I don't think it's messed up. I think it's human. Maybe. She pulled her coat tighter against the wind. But then I started noticing things with my daughter. The way she'd cover for him. The lies she'd tell without blinking. One day I asked her why Daddy was home so late, and she looked me dead in the eye, my 9-year-old daughter, and said he was helping a friend move furniture. Didn't even hesitate. And I thought, where did she learn to lie like that? Same thing happened to mine. I know. That's why I reached out. Rachel pulled an envelope from her purse and handed it to me. These are texts between Marcus and your wife. From my husband's phone. He didn't know I cloned the SIM card last year. Took me weeks to figure out the tech, but desperation makes you resourceful. He doesn't suspect anything? He thinks I'm too dumb to check. Too trusting. That's always been his assumption about me. That I'm some naive housewife who'll believe anything as long as he's charming enough. She shook her head. Men like him think they're so clever. They never consider that we might be watching right back. I opened the envelope. More screenshots. More evidence. More pieces of the bomb that had blown my family apart. Lisa's so grateful for the escape. Says her husband barely notices she's alive. My kids think we're on a work trip. Rachel's clueless as always. We should be more careful. Her daughter almost caught us at the park. That last one, Rachel said quietly. That's about your daughter, isn't it? Yeah. My voice came out rougher than I intended. She was 11 when she figured out something was wrong. 11 years old and already learning that adults lie. What are you going to do? Rachel asked. Same thing you are, probably. I've got a lawyer. We've been quietly building a case for months. She stood up, brushing off her jeans. I just wanted you to know you're not crazy, and you're not alone. Whatever you decide to do about this, make sure you protect your children first. Everything else is just details. Rachel, I called before she could walk away. Did you ever think about confronting him? Just laying it all out and watching him try to explain? She turned back with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Every day. But here's what I realized. Men like Marcus don't explain. They deflect. They blame. They turn it around until you're apologizing to them for being suspicious. The only way to beat them is with evidence so solid they can't wiggle out of it. Cold. Maybe, but it's effective. She walked away without looking back, and I sat there for another hour, watching strangers' kids play on the swings, while my own sat at home, carrying secrets that should never have been theirs to keep. Week 3 brought the first real crack in Lisa's facade. It was a Tuesday, therapy day. We'd all gotten into a rhythm by then. Sessions with Dr. Bowman, homework routines, dinners eaten in strained silence. Lisa was sleeping in the guest room, and I'd started working from home more often, unwilling to leave the twins alone with her for longer than necessary. Dr. Bowman had suggested individual sessions in addition to family therapy. I'd agreed immediately. Lisa had resisted at first, but eventually caved. This particular Tuesday, she didn't show up for the family session. Traffic, she texted at 3:45. Running late, so sorry. By 4:15, it was clear she wasn't coming. Dr. Bowman handled it gracefully, redirecting the session toward the twins' feelings about consistency and trust. But I watched Lily's face during that hour. The way her jaw tightened, the way she stopped drawing and just stared at her hands. She's not stuck in traffic, Lily said afterward, in the car. She's with him, isn't she? I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I don't know, sweetheart. Yes, you do. You're just not saying. I didn't have an answer for that. What do you tell your 11-year-old when she's right? That night, I called Carla. Can you track where she was this afternoon, between 3:30 and 5? Already on it, she said. I had a guy watching the school. She left at 3:15 in Marcus's car. They went to the motel, stayed for an hour and 40 minutes. I closed my eyes. She missed her children's therapy session to have sex with her boyfriend. That's what it looks like, yes. Get me video if you can. Timestamps, license plates, everything. Will do, but Ray, Carla paused. You should know that the school is starting to take notice. Marcus has been arriving late to meetings, leaving early. There's been talk. Good. Let there be talk. I hung up and walked upstairs to check on the twins. Max was already asleep, but Lily was sitting up in bed with her journal, a sparkly purple thing she'd gotten for her birthday last year. Daddy, can I ask you something? Always, kiddo. When Mommy leaves, am I going to have to go with her? The question hit me like a punch to the chest. What makes you think Mommy's leaving? Lily looked at me with those two old eyes. Because you don't look at her the way you used to, and she keeps sneaking around even though she promised to stop. And I can tell you're really, really angry all the time now, even when you try to hide it. I sat down on the edge of her bed. Lily, whatever happens between Mommy and me, you and Max are my whole world. Nothing changes that. Ever. But who do we live with? If you get divorced? That's complicated. There are rules about that. Courts and lawyers and people who figure out what's best for kids in these situations. I smoothed her hair back from her forehead. But I promise you, I'm going to fight for you, both of you, with everything I have. She nodded slowly. Then she opened her journal and showed me what she'd been writing. Things I know are true. 1. Daddy loves us. 2. Mommy said she loves us, but she lied about other stuff too, so maybe not. 3. Lying makes your stomach hurt. 4. Secrets are bad, even when people say they're not. 5. I don't want to keep any more secrets ever again. I pulled her into a hug and didn't let go until she fell asleep against my chest. The confrontation happened at the end of week 4. Lisa came home late from work, later than usual, with that flushed look I'd learned to recognize. Hair slightly disheveled in a way she'd tried to fix. A spot of something on her collar she hadn't noticed. The signs were so obvious now, I couldn't believe I'd ever missed them. I was waiting at the kitchen table with Carla's latest report spread out in front of me. 2 glasses of water, a box of tissues. Everything you need for the end of a marriage. We need to talk. She froze in the doorway, purse still dangling from her shoulder. Ray, I'm really tired. Can we sit down, Lisa? Something in my voice must have told her this wasn't negotiable. She set down her things and slid into the chair across from me, eyes darting to the papers. I watched her expression shift from annoyance to confusion, to the slow, dawning terror of someone who realizes the game is up. What is all this? 14 weeks of evidence. I pushed the folder toward her. Restaurant receipts, motel records, text messages, including the ones where you bragged about our children helping cover for you. The color drained from her face. Her hands trembled as she reached for the folder, then pulled back like it might bite her. Who gave you? It doesn't matter where it came from. What matters is what's in it. I leaned forward, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was hammering. I know about the motel on Highway 2. I know about Marcus's history, the other women, the complaints that got buried. I know you missed the twins' therapy session last week to meet him while I sat there explaining to our daughter why Mommy didn't show up. Ray, I can explain. Can you? Really? I pulled out one of the screenshots, her words, black on white. Here's what you wrote to him 3 weeks ago. Ray suspects nothing. He's too wrapped up in his own little world to notice anything. Does that need explaining? Her face crumpled. I didn't mean, here's another one. Kids covered for us at the park. Adorable, right? They're naturals. You made our children accomplices, Lisa. You turned them into liars. They didn't understand what they were doing. No, they didn't. That's the point. They trusted you completely, and you exploited that trust to cover up your affair. I felt my composure cracking and fought to hold it together. Lily's been having nightmares. Did you know that? Max cries at random moments and can't explain why. They know something's wrong in this house, and they blame themselves because you taught them that keeping secrets is more important than telling the truth. Lisa was crying now, real tears streaming down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no wavering. Just cold, clear certainty. How could you do this to them? Forget about me. I'm a grown man. I'll survive. But they're 11 years old, Lisa. They should be worrying about homework and video games, not whether Mommy's going to get caught with her boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. Then what is he? What exactly do you call a man you sneak off to motels with while your husband sits at home reading bedtime stories to your children? She didn't have an answer for that. I've filed for divorce, I said. Papers will be served tomorrow. I'm seeking primary custody based on your documented history of deception and parental manipulation. My lawyer says we have a strong case. You can't. Ray, please, we can work through this. Couples survive affairs. This isn't about the affair. I stood up, gathering the papers. This is about what you did to our children. And that? I'll never forgive. Lisa grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. Her grip was desperate, nails digging in. Ray, wait, please. I know I messed up, but I can change. I can be better. Just give me a chance to prove. You had chances, Lisa. Every day for 3 months, you had a chance to tell the truth. You chose him instead. Every single time. I pulled free and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her sobbing at the table. And for the first time in a month, I felt something almost like peace. The next 2 months were war. Lisa lawyered up immediately. Some flashy guy from Seattle who specialized in high-conflict divorce cases. Their strategy was transparent from the start. Paint me as the unreasonable husband, the one who couldn't forgive a momentary lapse, the one who was weaponizing the children. We went through mediation first. Washington State requires it before trial. Sat in a conference room with a neutral third party while Lisa cried and talked about her stress and how I was always working and how she'd made a terrible mistake but deserved a chance to prove she'd changed. I didn't engage, just handed over documents, timestamps of her motel visits, transcripts of her text messages, a timeline showing that her reformed behavior included 2 more meetups with Marcus in the first week after our confrontation. The mediator looked at the evidence, looked at Lisa, looked back at the evidence. Mrs. Harlan, I need to be direct with you. The court is going to see all of this, every bit of it. And when they do, claims of reformation are going to ring hollow. Lisa's lawyer called for a break. They huddled in the hallway for 20 minutes. When they came back, her entire demeanor had shifted. My client is willing to discuss a settlement, the flashy lawyer said, not meeting my eyes. We propose a 60-40 asset split in Mr. Harlan's favor, with shared custody and alternating holidays. No deal, I said. Ray, my own attorney, a methodical woman named Patricia Okoye, touched my arm. We should at least consider, no. Shared custody means my children spend half their time in a home where lying is normalized, where their mother's boyfriend might show up any time, where they get used as pawns all over again. I looked directly at Lisa. I want primary custody. I want the house. And I want documented limits on unsupervised visitation until a court-appointed evaluator confirms the children's well-being. Lisa's face contorted. You can't just take my kids. You gave them away the moment you made them co-conspirators. The mediation ended without resolution. We were going to trial. The thing about divorce proceedings is that they grind you down in ways you don't expect. It's not the big moments, the court dates, the depositions, the lawyer meetings. It's the small stuff. The quiet dinners where your kids ask when mommy's coming back and you don't know what to say. The nights you lie awake running through worst-case scenarios. The way your whole life becomes a legal strategy instead of, an actual life. Carla kept digging, and she kept finding gold. Turns out Lisa's boss, the vice principal, a woman named Denise Hartwick, had been covering for her absences. Not out of any romantic involvement, just old-fashioned workplace loyalty gone wrong. When Carla slipped an anonymous note under Hartwick's door with time-stamped evidence of the motel visits, that loyalty evaporated pretty quick. She's on administrative leave pending an HR review, Carla told me over the phone. Not technically for the affair. Schools can't really fire you for that. But for misuse of work hours and falsifying attendance records. How's Lisa taking it? About as well as you'd expect. Her support system is crumbling. Marcus's wife filed for separation last week and apparently named your wife in the papers. It's becoming a whole thing. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. The trial was scheduled for week 18. 3 days of testimony, evidence presentation, and cross-examination. My attorney had prepared me for everything. What to say, how to say it, when to stay quiet and let the documents speak. Remember, Patricia told me the night before, courts aren't about winning arguments. They're about establishing facts. The evidence speaks for itself. Your job is to stay calm and let it. Day one was procedural, establishing timelines, confirming financial records, getting the basic framework on the books. Lawyers talked to other lawyers. The judge asked clarifying questions. I sat there watching the clock and thinking about the twins, safe at Jake's house in Tacoma, where they wouldn't have to witness any of this. Day two was when things got real. Lisa took the stand first. She was dressed conservatively. Muted blue blouse, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. Her lawyer walked her through a carefully rehearsed narrative. Overwhelmed mother, emotionally neglected by workaholic husband, making one terrible mistake under stress. Mrs. Harlan, can you describe your state of mind during the period in question? I was lost. Lisa's voice caught perfectly. Just the right amount of vulnerability. Ray and I had grown apart. He was always at work, always focused on his projects, and I felt invisible in my own home. When Marcus showed interest in me, it was like someone finally saw me again. She cried at all the right moments, talked about how much she loved her children, promised she'd changed. Then Patricia stepped up for cross-examination, and I watched my attorney transform from the soft-spoken woman I'd met in her office to something considerably more precise. Mrs. Harlan, you've stated that your affair was a result of emotional neglect. Is that correct? Yes, Ray was always working, and I felt alone. I see. Let's talk about that. Patricia checked her notes. Can you tell me how many soccer games your husband has coached for your son Max in the past year? Lisa hesitated. I'm not sure of the exact number. 12. According to the league records, your husband coached all 12 regular season games. And how many of those games did you attend? I was busy with work sometimes. The answer is 3, Mrs. Harlan. You attended 3 out of 12 games. Patricia let that hang in the air. How about school pickups? According to the school's sign-out logs, your husband handles pickup approximately 70% of the time. Does that sound accurate? He gets off work earlier than I do. The logs also show that on days when you were scheduled for pickup, you were absent or late approximately 40% of the time. Meanwhile, your husband has never missed a scheduled pickup in 3 years. Lisa's lawyer objected, relevance, but the judge overruled. Now, Patricia continued, regarding your children's involvement in concealing the affair, you've testified that you never instructed them to lie. Is that still your position? I never told them to lie. They misunderstood. Patricia held up a printed screenshot. This is a text message recovered from your husband's cloud backup. It reads, and I quote, "Kids covered for us at the park. Adorable, right? They're naturals." Can you explain what you meant by that? The blood drained from Lisa's face. Her lawyer objected again. Hearsay, foundation. But the judge had already admitted the texts into evidence during the procedural session. Mrs. Harlan, what did you mean when you called your children naturals at covering for your affair? I was just... It was a joke. I didn't mean... A joke about your children helping you conceal an extramarital affair from their father? You're twisting my words. I'm reading them back to you, Mrs. Harlan. Verbatim. Patricia pulled out another page. Here's another message you sent. Told Lily it's our special secret game. She's so eager to please, it's almost too easy. Would you like to explain that one as well? Lisa's composure finally cracked. You don't understand what it was like. He was always gone, always fixing someone else's problems, and I needed someone who saw me. So you recruited your 11-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son to help you find that someone. Is that accurate? Lisa didn't answer. She just stared at the table, shoulders shaking. No further questions, Your Honor. The rest of day 2 was evidence parade. The motel records, the credit card statements, the testimony from Rachel, now going by her maiden name, about Marcus's pattern of behavior. She took the stand calmly, detailed the years of suspicion, the discovery of his serial infidelity, the way her own children had been drawn into the deception without understanding what they were participating in. "My daughter thought she was helping her daddy with a surprise for mommy," Rachel said quietly. That's what he told her. A surprise party. She kept that secret for 8 months because she loved her father and wanted to make him proud. The courtroom was silent. The vice principal, Denise Hartwick, showed up next. Subpoenaed, begrudging, visibly uncomfortable as she confirmed that she'd provided cover for Lisa's absences without questioning their purpose. "Mrs. Harlan told me she had medical appointments," Hartwick testified. "I didn't ask for details. I should have." "And when you discovered the true nature of these absences?" Hartwick's jaw tightened. "I felt used. I'd put my own reputation on the line to help a colleague I thought was dealing with a health issue. Instead, I was covering for her affair." By the time we broke for the evening, Lisa looked like a ghost of herself. Her flashy lawyer had stopped making objections. The writing was on the wall. Day 3 was about the kids. Not in the courtroom itself. Washington courts protect minors from that kind of exposure. But a guardian ad litem had interviewed the twins extensively, and her report was entered into evidence. Both children expressed a clear preference for residing primarily with their father, Patricia read aloud. They associate their mother's home environment with feelings of guilt, confusion, and pressure to conceal information. Lily, in particular, demonstrated significant anxiety around the concept of keeping secrets and stated that she feels safe when her father is present. The judge, a gray-haired woman who'd clearly seen every kind of domestic disaster, studied the report for a long moment. "Ms. Harlan, do you have anything to add before I make my ruling?" Lisa stood up, trembling. "I just want to say, I love my children, more than anything. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'm still their mother. Please don't take them away from me." The judge nodded. Then she turned to me. "Mr. Harlan?" I'd prepared a statement, but looking at Lisa, at the wreckage of the woman I'd once loved, I found myself going off script. "Your Honor, I don't hate my wife. I don't want to destroy her. But I have 2 children who've been taught that lying is okay if it makes someone happy, who've been used as shields to protect an adult's selfishness. And my only job, my only purpose right now, is to undo that damage, to show them that truth matters, that they matter, that their family doesn't have to be built on secrets." The judge wrote something in her notes. Then she delivered the ruling. Primary physical custody to me. The house awarded for stability. Assets divided with adjustments for documented misuse of marital funds. Lisa granted visitation every other weekend, supervised for the first 6 months pending completion of individual therapy. It was over. Lisa didn't look at me as they let her out. I didn't try to catch her eye. The aftermath wasn't the fairy tale ending some people might expect. Lisa moved into a small apartment across town. 2 bedrooms, 2nd floor, walking distance to a grocery store. She did complete her therapy, gave her credit for that much. Dr. Bowman told me in one of our final sessions that Lisa was making genuine progress in understanding the impact of her choices, whatever that meant. The supervised visits transitioned to regular weekends after 6 months, just like the court ordered. The twins went and they came back, and slowly, very slowly, something like a new normal started to take shape. "How was Mom's place?" I'd ask every Sunday evening. "Fine," Lily would shrug. "We watched movies, made popcorn." "She tried to teach me to make pancakes," Max would add. "They were really bad." Small mercies. At least she was trying. Marcus got transferred to a school 3 districts away. Rachel told me about it in one of our occasional check-ins. We'd developed an unlikely friendship, 2 people who'd survived the same storm. Last I heard, his divorce had finalized. He'd lost the house, and he was dating someone new. Some people really do never learn. Work gave me the promotion I'd botched during the worst of everything. Harold, my boss, a gruff Vietnam vet who'd been with the company since before the internet existed, pulled me into his office one afternoon and closed the door. "Harlan, I'm going to be straight with you. You've had a rough year." "Yes, sir." "Missed deadlines. Botched that presentation to the Tacoma clients. Showed up looking like you hadn't slept in a week, more than once." I braced for the hammer to fall. But here's the thing. Harold leaned back in his chair. "You kept showing up. Every damn day. Whatever was going on at home, and I got a pretty good idea what it was, small town and all. You put on your badge and you walked through that door and you did your job." "I tried, sir." "That's all any of us can do, son. Try." He slid a folder across the desk. "Promotion's yours. Corner desk. 5% raise. You're leading the infrastructure team starting next quarter." I stared at the paperwork. I don't know what to say. Say thank you and get out of my office before I change my mind. I took the promotion. Tried not to feel like I'd earned it through suffering. The Single Dad Support Group met every Thursday at the community center, a converted church basement that smelled like coffee and desperation. I'd been skeptical at first, all those guys sitting in a circle talking about their feelings, but Harold had insisted. "My brother did it after his divorce," he'd said. "Saved his life. Go." So I went. And he was right. The group was led by a guy named Derek, mid-50s, 3 divorces under his belt, who ran a landscaping business and had the philosophical outlook of someone who'd seen everything twice. "The thing about betrayal," Derek said in one of our early sessions, "is that it rewires your brain. You start seeing threats everywhere. Every late night at work, every unexplained text, every moment of distance. Your mind goes to the worst place automatically. That's not paranoia. That's trauma." "How do you get past it?" asked another guy, younger than me, wedding band tan still visible on his finger. "You don't, really. Not completely. But you build new wiring alongside the old. Create enough positive experiences that the threat detector starts to quiet down." Derek looked around the room. "Any of you guys dating yet?" Silence. Uncomfortable shifting. "Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's okay. But eventually, you'll have to trust someone again. It'll feel impossible. It'll feel dangerous. Do it anyway." And then there was Mia. She was a teacher at the twins school, 3rd grade, full of energy and bad jokes and a frankness that reminded me of the person I used to be before everything went to hell. We met at soccer practice when Max's season started up again, and she volunteered to help coach after their regular assistant moved away. Nothing happened fast. We grabbed coffee after practice a few times. She told me about her own divorce. Her ex had been a gambler, not a cheater, but the betrayal felt similar. I told her about Lisa, about the kids, about the long climb back. "You know what I figured out?" she said one afternoon, both of us sitting on the bleachers while the kids ran drills. "Healing isn't about forgetting the bad stuff. It's about building enough good stuff around it that it doesn't define you anymore." I looked at her, really looked, and realized I was smiling for no particular reason. "Yeah," I said, "I think I'm starting to get that." The first Christmas after everything was strange in a way I hadn't anticipated. The twins were with me. It was my year for the holiday itself, Lisa getting them for New Year's. We'd set up the tree together, hung the ornaments, strung lights across the porch. Everything felt simultaneously familiar and completely alien. "Dad?" Lily found me in the kitchen Christmas morning, while Max was still tearing into presents in the living room. "Can I show you something?" She led me upstairs to her room and pulled out her journal, the sparkly purple one that had traveled with her through all of this. "I started writing when you and Mom first fought," she said. "At first it was just sad stuff, but now—" She flipped to a recent page and handed it to me. "Things I know are true, updated. 1. Daddy loves us. 2. Mom loves us too in her own way, even though she messed up. 3. Families can look different and still be families. 4. It's okay to be sad about things that changed. 5. I don't have to keep secrets anymore. 6. Sometimes bad things lead to good things. 7. I'm going to be okay. I pulled her into a hug, her head tucked under my chin, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. I'm proud of you, kiddo, I finally managed. More than you'll ever know. She hugged me back, then pulled away with that bright, practical expression she always got when she was done being emotional. Now come on, Max has probably eaten half his stocking candy by now. We went downstairs together. Mia was joining us for dinner later. The house smelled like pine and cinnamon and something sweet in the oven. And for the first time in almost a year, I felt something I'd almost forgotten existed. Not happiness, exactly. Not yet. But the possibility of it. The understanding that the worst thing that ever happened to me might also be the thing that finally set me free. Months rolled by. Spring came with soccer practices and school projects and weekend hikes where Mia joined us more often than not. Lisa sent birthday cards and showed up to school events, sitting on the opposite side of the auditorium with that careful politeness of divorced co-parents who've learned to stay in their own lanes. One evening in early summer, Max came home from her place with a question that stopped me in my tracks. "Dad, Mom said something weird today." "What's that, buddy?" "She said she's sorry for making us keep the secret, and that she should have been braver." I set down the dish I was drying. "How did that make you feel?" Max considered this with the gravity only a 12-year-old can muster. "Good, I guess. Like maybe she finally got it." Lily, doing homework at the kitchen table, looked up. She cried a little, not the fake crying, the real kind. I nodded slowly. People can change, guys. It takes a long time and it doesn't erase what happened, but they can change. "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" Lily asked. I took my time with the answer because it mattered. Forgiveness isn't something you just decide once. It's more like letting go of the weight a little at a time. I'm not there yet, but I'm not as angry as I used to be. And that's something. The kids seemed satisfied with that. They went back to their activities, and I went back to the dishes, and the evening settled into its comfortable routine. Later, after they were in bed, Mia called. "Still on for the trail this weekend?" "Wouldn't miss it." "Good. I've got a new route I want to try. 6 miles, pretty views, ends at this little waterfall I found." "Sounds perfect." A pause. Then, "Hey, Ray." "Yeah?" "I'm really glad you kept showing up." I leaned against the counter, phone pressed to my ear, house quiet around me. "Me too," I said. "Me too." It was October when Lisa made one last play. She petitioned the court for modified custody, 50-50 split, citing her completed therapy and improved circumstances. Her lawyer had gotten bolder again, talking about how the original ruling had been reactionary and how the children deserved equal time with both parents. I called Patricia immediately. "This happens sometimes," she said, unflappable as ever. "Parents get a year or two under their belt, convince themselves the past has been erased. The good news is, modifications require demonstrating a significant change in circumstances. Finishing court-ordered therapy doesn't automatically qualify. What do we do? Same thing we did before, document everything. Let the evidence speak." The modification hearing was quick. Lisa's lawyer made impassioned arguments about rehabilitation and second chances. Patricia calmly presented the guardian ad litem's follow-up report. Both children had expressed comfort with the current arrangement and anxiety about disruption. The judge denied the modification. Lisa cried in the hallway afterward. Not the performative tears from the first trial, something quieter, more broken. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her again. Then I remembered Lily's drawings, Max's nightmares, the weight those kids had carried because their mother couldn't keep her secrets to herself. I walked past without stopping. Christmas came around again. 2 years since that first shattering Friday night in the garage. Mia and I had been together for almost 8 months by then. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just two people who'd survived their own disasters learning to build something new. The kids adored her. She never tried to replace Lisa, never overstepped, just showed up consistently and let the relationship grow on its own terms. She was there when we decorated the tree, there when we opened presents, there when Max accidentally set the tablecloth on fire trying to light the candles and we all had to scramble for the fire extinguisher while laughing so hard we could barely stand. After dinner, while the kids were testing out their new video games in the living room, Mia and I sat on the porch, watching snow drift down in the glow of the Christmas lights. "You know what I was thinking about today?" she asked. "What's that?" "That night you told me about. The one where you found out everything. The Thai food. The garage. All of it." I nodded slowly. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd just not come home early that night? If you'd texted her first and she'd told the guy to leave before you got there?" It was a question I'd turned over countless times in those early, sleepless months. The what-ifs, the alternate timelines. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But here's the thing. It would have come out eventually. That kind of secret always does. And the longer it went on, the more damage it would have done to the kids. So finding out when you did was actually better. Horrible, but better." Mia reached over and took my hand. "I'm glad you found out." I looked at her. This smart, funny, impossibly kind woman who'd walked into my life when I wasn't even sure I had a life left to offer. "I'm glad I found you," I said. She smiled, squeezed my hand, and we sat there together in the cold, watching the snow fall, while inside the house our kids, because that's what they were now, ours, laughed at something on the screen. The letter came in March. No return address. Typed, not handwritten. I almost threw it away as junk mail, but something made me open it. "Mr. Harlan, you don't know me, but I know what you did for Rachel, for her kids, for everyone who was caught in that man's orbit. I was the one who got reassigned when he moved on to your wife. I've spent years convinced I was the problem, that I should have been enough. Finding out about the pattern changed something in me. I left my school, started over in another state. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Thank you for not letting it stay secret. No signature, no way to respond. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in the box with all the other evidence, now just artifacts of a history that had stopped defining me. Spring brought soccer season again. Lily had joined a competitive league, surprisingly fierce on the field. Max was more into drama now, school play, leading role, whole costume and everything. Mia and I sat in the front row at his opening night, clapping until our hands hurt. Lisa was there too. Back row. Alone. After the show, she caught my eye across the crowd. For a second, I thought she might come over, might try to talk, to apologize, to explain one more time. But she just nodded. A small, tired acknowledgement. Then she turned and walked out the side door. I never saw that look on her face again. The twins continued their weekend visits. She sent cards and remembered birthdays and stayed, finally, in her own lane. Some people asked if I ever got closure. If there was a moment when everything clicked into place and the pain just stopped. The answer was no. There wasn't. There never is with these things. But there was something else. Something I hadn't expected when I was standing in that garage with Thai food going cold in my arms and my world falling apart around me. There was a future. A messy, imperfect, hard-won future full of Lego builds and soccer games and late-night conversations with a woman who saw me for exactly who I was. There was a family, different from the one I'd planned, but maybe stronger for it. There was life going on. And that was enough.